Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Immortal villain. He becomes stronger by fighting for love. Chapter 1. Beauty, what can't you think of? Do you have to jump off the building? Shangshang apartment, 24th floor, rooftop. Qin Yigang had just finished washing his shorts and was going to take them out to dry. Unexpectedly, as soon as he came up, he saw a young girl with short skirt and black stockings standing at the edge of the balcony. She cried very hard. Looking from the back, she has a slim and graceful figure, and her skin is fair and translucent. Why can't such a beautiful woman just think about it? None of your business. The beautiful woman looked back at him with a rainy look. Perhaps she was expecting someone else to come back to find her, but when she saw that it was not the case, her eyes were suddenly filled with disappointment and world weariness. Qin Yi took a look at her appearance and found that she also had a perfect oval face, pretty and sweet. So he said, "Now, since you are going to die anyway, why not give me a favor and give me a hug before you die?" In fact, I said this out of good intentions. If I try to provoke her back, maybe she won't have extreme thoughts. However, what Qin Yi didn't expect was that as soon as he finished speaking, the beauty replied directly without thinking, "Okay. Come here." The beauty turned around, opened her arms, and made a hug with her graceful figure. Qin Yi was excited and excited. He actually, really agreed. "Don't move, I'll be right here. The edge of the balcony is very narrow and there is a lot of debris accumulated." He climbed over carefully, stood on the high platform, came to the beauty, and hugged the beauty without saying a word. Immediately, a fragrance filled the air, the beauty's smooth and fragrant hair, and the clean and sweet milky fragrance on her body. The moment I hugged her, I felt a soft and delicate touch on my hands. Just when he was about to take the beauty down, the beauty suddenly cried and said to him, "I'm sorry." Sorry. Before Qin Yi could react, he was hugged by a beautiful woman and jumped down from the high platform on the 24th floor. There was a sudden spin, day turned into night, and night turned into day. Before Qin Yi had time to regret hugging the beautiful woman, he suddenly saw himself falling from the clouds to the ground like an arrow from the sky. The sound of the hunting wind made him unable to open his eyes. But at this time, there was a sudden sound in his mind, and a strange voice announced, "System is activating. Activate 20%. Activate 60%. Activate 90%. Invincible favorability system activated successfully. Closing square bracket." This is a vast grassland, and there are two parties of people fighting fiercely at this time. Someone grabbed a blood cloud sword and slashed so hard that the earth trembled, and someone danced with a spear that made dragons roar and tigers roar, leaving lingering shadows. "Senior brother, save me." A young girl was surrounded by a tree by a 2-meter tall man. The girl's body was injured, and most of her clothes were torn, and her white skin was loomingly exposed in the air. A pair of slender, straight and round jade legs curled up nervously on the ground. She shouted forward. The man wielding the spear was none other than her senior brother Hua Yunfang. The silver spear and white clothes are as good as snow. They move freely in the crowd and are unstoppable. "HMPH, save you. Who can save you?" The 2-meter tall man looked at the girl's fair legs with coveted eyes, and even greedy saliva flowed from his mouth. He stretched out his thick right hand and grabbed the girl's thigh. The girl grabbed a stone and hit him, but he easily blocked it with a flick of his finger. "Senior brother, save me." The girl was heartbroken and called out to her senior brother, but at this moment her senior brother was moving toward the rescue of another girl. That was her cousin and the sect master's legitimate daughter. She thought that her appearance was no worse than that of her cousin, but in terms of status, she was a bit worse after all. Because of their different identities, in the eyes of the senior brother, there has always been only her cousin Ji Yu Qingshuang. But despite this, the girl Ji Yu Yi still hopes that her senior brother can look at her more and care about her more. At this moment, the hope in her eyes turned into despair. After all, senior brother Hua still only has sister Qingshuang in his heart. Seeing that the 2-meter tall man was about to grab her round and delicate thigh, the girl suddenly closed her eyes as if resigned to her fate. Bang! But at this moment, a black shadow suddenly landed from the sky. By coincidence, it hit the 2-meter tall man on the head. The young girl who heard the noise opened her eyes tremblingly, and what she saw was a 2-meter tall man bleeding from all his orifices, who had been strangled to death by a young man wearing a t-shirt and shorts. The young man was dressed strangely, and his hair was short, unlike ordinary people's long hair. It hurts, it hurts. The young man held his waist, and Fatian almost broke his femoral head when he sat down. Fortunately, the system had just been activated 100%, allowing him to enter a brief hegemonic state, so he was not thrown to death on the spot. When the young man opened his eyes, the scene he saw made him dumbfounded on the spot. Isn't I on the roof of Shangshang apartment? If I fell, it would be on the highway. What's going on here? Qin Yi saw a different sky and different people. The broken corpses and broken arms all over the ground suddenly frightened him. Suddenly, another 2-meter-tall giant man wielding a skull knife came towards him and cut him in the middle. The young girl next to him screamed, "Be careful." At the same time, the girl picked up a stone from the ground and threw it at the giant man's eyes. The giant man was affected, and he turned his blade angrily and started to kill the girl. The girl screamed again, thinking her life was about to end. But there was another bang, and a silver spear came through the air and pierced the 2-meter giant man. He nailed it to a rock, and the silver gun made a buzzing sound after penetrating the rock. The girl suddenly had stars twinkling in her eyes, and her face was full of joy. "Senior brother." A young man in white came belatedly and jumped to her side. "Yi, are you okay?" The girl was shy and said, "Brother, thank you for coming to save me. Be careful yourself, I'll help the others." The young man in white didn't leave much tenderness behind. He cast aside these words, glanced at Qin Yi, drew his spear, and killed in another direction. Qin Yi was sitting on the ground at the moment, his eyes a little dazed. He was very adaptable and now he understood what was going on. Transmigrate. Not only did he transmigrate, he also activated an invincible favor system. Task release. Gain Quu Yi's favor and give the host a first-level cultivation level. Quu Yi. First-level cultivation. "Sir, are you okay?" Although Quu Yi looked at the young man in front of her strangely, he saved her life after all. Qin Yi stood up, but his head suddenly turned black for no apparent reason. Perhaps it was a side effect of transmigrate. He lost control and fell into the girl's arms. "Are you awake?" Opening his eyes again drowsily, Qin Yi saw an antique room. He lay on a square bed that looked like rosewood. The person standing next to the bed was the young girl whom I had seen before, and next to the young girl, there was a middle-aged man sitting with a silver needle in his hand. It looked like he had just received an acupuncture. The target of this acupuncture is undoubtedly himself. Here it is. No need to ask, this must be the home of a young girl. However, for Qin Yi, he is unfamiliar whether it is the young girl's home or anywhere. It can even be said that he is unfamiliar with the whole world. "This is the famous sword sect," the young girl replied. Qin Yi looked at the young girl again and saw a translucent water drop-shaped description box floating above her head. Favorability 60. Cause of favorability. 20 because of the life-saving grace, 40 because the host is handsome and not inferior to senior brother Hua Yunfeng. Tisk. Qin Yi sighed in his heart, and sure enough, no matter where he goes, if he has a handsome face, he will still have more fun. "Young man, where are you from?" Suddenly, the middle-aged man spoke. He slowly put away the silver needle. His face is calm and his words are gentle. In terms of temperament, he looks like a humble scholar. Because he was directly transmigrated, not soul transported, Qin Yi didn't understand the world here at all. "But I thought, no matter where this is, the world is so big, and you may not know just about any place." "Actually, I came back from overseas." "Overseas?" The middle-aged scribe asked. "Are your ancestors from Zhongzhou?" Qin Yi didn't know what Zhongzhou was not about Zhongzhou, but following his words at this moment, he was probably right. "Yes, our ancestors fled the chaos and lived overseas. After multiplying for several generations, they didn't want their descendants to continue to live forever. Being that frog in the well will bring me to my generation and allow me to return to my homeland and gain insights." The middle-aged scribe nodded thoughtfully. 100 years ago, Zhongzhou was indeed in troubled times, and it was a helpless move for our ancestors to drift overseas. After saying that, he stood up and said, "Thank you very much for saving my little girl's life this time. I, the sword sect, always repay my kindness. If you have anything to ask for, young man, just say it." Qin has no idea what kind of sect the famous sword sect is and whether it is powerful or not. But since the Hangdao love system has been activated and the mission has been released, this mission must continue. If you want to carry out the mission, of course you have to stay in the famous sword sect. Excuse me, can I stay in the famous sword sect? Qin asked tentatively. Oh, stay. The middle-aged scribe smiled slightly. Why do you want to stay? Qin could only talk nonsense. I have heard the name of the Mingjian sect from my ancestors. This time I came to the Mingjian sect at the right time. If I can stay here, I may be able to fulfill the wish of my father and ancestors. He just said that he came back from overseas to see the world. This carries the wish of our ancestors for generations. The middle-aged scribe saw that he spoke so solemnly, not to mention that the young man had saved his daughter. With this sincerity alone, there was no problem in keeping him. Since you have this idea, then you can stay in Quu Peak. However, you can also stay for a few days before making a choice. Once you decide to stay, you must abide by the rules of the famous sword sect. Thank you. Your health is fine, but the qi and blood are too stagnant. Now that you've woken up, you can walk more. Once the blood qi disperses, you'll be fine. After the middle-aged scribe finished speaking, he handed a small bottle to Qin, then gave instructions to the young girl and left the room. After the middle-aged scribe left, the young girl became lively. Hey, what's your name? Qin, where are you, miss? Qin looked at the girl in front of him. Under her thin eyebrows, her two big black and white eyes looked like crystal grapes. Two shallow dimples can often be seen on the tender white face. At the age of 16 or 17, which is the prime of life, she has a graceful figure and is very slender and beautiful. My name is Quu. By the way, how did you suddenly fall from the sky before? Quu has always been curious about this. She originally thought Qin was a practitioner, but after coming back and checking with her father, she discovered that this young man was just an ordinary person. But that day, it was really thanks to Qin that he fell from the sky and killed the 2-meter-old man. Otherwise, her life or death would have been unpredictable. Oh, I came back from overseas and was flying on a falcon. I encountered a strong wind in the sky. I couldn't sit firmly and fell down. Being able to help the girl was purely accidental. So that's it. Quu smiled and said suddenly, can you stand up now? My father said you should get up and walk around to disperse the energy and blood. It should be okay. Qin tried to get off the bed and landed his legs on the ground. There was no discomfort. After standing up, he felt refreshed. I don't know if it's the effect of the system or the effect of her father's acupuncture. Let me take you out for a walk. Good. He followed the girl out of the room, walked around the west wing door, and came out into a large courtyard with a spacious martial arts field. At this moment, there were 36 people sitting in the martial arts arena. They sat cross-legged, each exhaling. Visible to the naked eye, there were streams of air on their bodies forming tai chi-like clouds, dividing and joining together. Sure enough, it is a world where you can practice. Single quote. Qin's heart surged when he saw it, and he wished he could learn to practice immediately. You should know that after practicing, you can soar into the clouds, ride on the mist, and fly with your sword. How free and unrestrained is that? However, I have a system. Cultivation matters shouldn't be difficult, right? Immediately, he called out the system in his heart. As soon as he called, a soft female voice came from the depths of his mind. The task of obtaining Quu favor, does the host accept it? 90 points is the standard, 100 points is the full quota. If accepted, half of the reward can be advanced in advance for half a month, and the reward will be withdrawn if the task fails. Is there such a good thing? Prepay half of the reward in advance. You see, that stone is our Quu Peak's enlightenment stone. Every disciple of Quu Peak found the opportunity to get started by touching this stone when he first started cultivating. To practice Taoism is to go against heaven. This opportunity is quite important. Those who do not get opportunities will spend their entire lives as mere mortals. If you get the opportunity, you can become the golden scales. If you encounter the wind and cloud, you can suddenly transform into a dragon. Can I touch it? Qin followed the girl to the enlightenment stone. The girl nodded. Of course, my father has said that if you are willing to stay, then you are from Quu Peak. Anyone who is from Quu Peak can be qualified to use the Enlightenment Stone to enter Taoism. Qin Yi looked at the black boulder like a huge fairy peach with excitement, stretched out his hands and touched it. At the same time, he also answered the systematic question in his heart, I accept. As soon as he replied the 3 words, I accept, a golden light shot from the soles of his feet straight to the sky. The young girl looked at him in surprise, her pink little mouth couldn't help but open wide. The way of cultivation begins with qi refining. The realm of refining qi is divided into 10th layer. Those who have the opportunity to understand the way of heaven can be regarded as entering the 1st layer realm. The qi refining 1st layer's breath is long and long, far superior to that of ordinary people, and its strength is so great that one punch can reach 300 kilograms of force. The punch force of an ordinary person in his prime is only about 100 kilograms. For ordinary people, if they want to reach the 1st layer of qi refining, even if they get the opportunity to cross this threshold, they still need to practice for years and months, and it cannot be achieved in a day or 2. It can take as short as 2 or 3 years, or as long as 8 or 9 years. Only with a solid foundation can you have the opportunity to step into the 2nd level. However, at this moment, Qin Yi advanced half of the reward just because he agreed to the task given by the system. The system previously said that as long as he completes the task, he can get level up as a reward. Now he got half of level 1. What was unexpected was that after the 1st ray of light flashed under his feet, 4 more rays of light flashed in succession. Every wave of golden light surged through his body like an electric current. All 5 rays of light flashed, and his body had clearly reached the 5th layer of qi refining realm. Why did he know that he had arrived at qi refining 5th layer? This is very simple, because he feels that his dantian is opening up at this moment. As long as he closes his eyes, he feels that a pagoda is cast in the position of dantian. Starting from the foundation, the pagoda has been cast to a height of 5 stories. Oh my God, you. The young girl was stunned. It seemed that this was the first time she had seen such an astonishing scene since she was a child. Without waiting to say anything to Qin Yi, she suddenly ran towards the inner courtyard of Quu Peak. Dad, something strange happened. Qin Yi felt a little weak all over and sat down aside. The 30 or so people meditating in the martial arts arena all opened their eyes at this time and looked at him in astonishment. System, what you call upgrading one level means directly upgrading it to a larger realm. He had just asked a question in his mind, and a soft female voice immediately responded to him, Dear host, you were right, the so-called promotion of one level by the system is to directly improve a realm, and there is no small realm. In other words, this is a novice benefit, but if the host reaches the gold core stage, it will start to improve at a small level. Closing square bracket. Gold core realm before, that was also very strong. After Qin Yi got the affirmative answer, he couldn't be more excited. Next to the martial arts arena, there is a stone platform. The stone platform happens to be engraved with realm levels. Qi refining stage, foundation building stage, gold core stage, nascent soul stage, soul formation stage, transcending tribulation stage, Mahayana stage. There is also a detailed explanation next to it. 1st layer of the qi refining period. People with normal talents need at least 3 years to stabilize their state. If they have a breakthrough in 5 years, they are considered qualified. The 2nd layer of qi refining also takes 3 years to stabilize the state, and a breakthrough in 4 years can be considered qualified. In the 3rd layer of qi refining, a stable state can be achieved in 2 years, and a breakthrough in 3 years can be regarded as qualified. The most difficult part of the qi refining period is the beginning. After you really get started, you will improve faster and faster, just like when you were a baby, you can only drink milk at the beginning, and you don't grow very fast. But when the baby can eat, the growth rate will really increase. The realm of qi refining 5th layer would take a normal person at least 15 years to reach. Those with outstanding talents can achieve it in 8 to 9 years. It will take 4 to 5 years for a person with excellent talent to reach this level. But Qin Yi just touched the Tao Enlightenment Stone and reached it instantly. After reading the description of the realm on the stone platform, he also realized why those people were so surprised. Isn't this a little too fast, and I will be regarded as a monster? Just as this question arose in my mind, the system's gentle voice came again. the host does not need to worry too much, the destined son of this world will possess the gold core as soon as he is born. Compared to them, your speed can only be regarded as superior talent. Closing square bracket. Can it only be considered as having outstanding talent? Qin Yi, who was worried about his rapid improvement in realm a moment ago, immediately became unbalanced after hearing these words. The destined child is born with gold core. These people are really incomparable. No matter which world, there can be no fairness from the beginning. Suddenly, a ray of light and shadow broke through the sky in the inner courtyard of Quu Peak. When the light and shadow settled, everyone saw that a middle-aged scribe came out with the young girl Quu Yi. The ascetics on the martial arts field closed their eyes one after another at this moment and ignored external affairs, as if they were afraid of being reprimanded. When the middle-aged scribe came to Qin Yi, he looked him up and down, and then stretched out 2 fingers to press on the top of his head. Soon, the middle-aged scribe's expression became strange. Are you sure he just touched the enlightenment stone? The young girl nodded excitedly. Yes, the brothers and sisters on the stage were also watching. He touched the enlightenment stone. The middle-aged scribe looked calm and began to ask Qin Yi, young man, have you practiced Taoism with anyone before this? He wanted to ask clearly about these things. Because in the world of cultivation, it is taboo to lead an art master. If you are an art investment master, even if you are accepted, you will not be given the real thing. Qin Yi shook his head. Before today, I still didn't understand what cultivation was. The young girl also said at the side, Dad, you have checked him before. He obviously didn't have any knowledge before. I just saw it with my own eyes. He touched the enlightenment stone, and then his body continued to glow, and he immediately at the Qi refining 5th layer level. My God, this speed is almost comparable to that of senior brother Hua Yunfeng. The girl said excitedly, her eyes sparkling like stars. Qin Yi saw that the favorability score on her head suddenly increased by 10 points, reaching 70 points. A sense of appreciation arises due to the host's excellent talent. Senior brother Hua Yunfeng. Yes, senior brother Hua Yunfeng was born with a 9th layer innate Qi refining body. Although you are a little worse than him, you are still very powerful. The middle-aged scribe squinted his eyes and looked at Qin Yi several times, and then said, young man, now I want to ask you, are you willing to join the famous sword sect and join the gate of my Quu Peak? Previously, he only gave Qin Yi a choice. You can go or you can stay. Although Qin Yi saved his daughter's life, in fact, everyone knew the situation at that time. It was just a coincidence that Qin Yi saved Quu Yi. And Qin Yi is just an ordinary person. An ordinary person is not qualified to be valued too much by him. If Qin Yi wants to leave, then he will give Qin Yi 100 taels of gold. After he comes down from the mountain, he can become a rich man in the mortal world. This is his reward. But if Qin Yi chooses to stay here, then he will treat Qin Yi as a normal disciple and teach him whatever he needs to teach. But it's different now. Qin Yi showed extraordinary talent and potential. He only touched the enlightenment stone and instantly reached the 5th layer state of Qi refining. Looking at the entire Quu Peak, there is no disciple who can compare with it. Even among the entire famous sword sect, only Hua Yunfeng was stronger than him. He was not willing to let such a disciple slip away from his hands, so he needed to ask again seriously. Qin Yi was happy in his heart. From the middle-aged scribe's attitude, he felt a special sense of importance. I do. Very good. Formally state your name. The middle-aged scribe took out a jade plaque. The young girl happily poked Qin Yi at the side and reminded in a low voice, hurry up and become a disciple. My father is the master of Quu Peak and the 7th elder of the famous sword sect. How many people can even dream of becoming a disciple of my father? Not qualified. Apprenticeship. To be honest, if you have a system, why do you still need to become a disciple? However, when I think about it, if I succeed in seizing love, the middle-aged scribe will be my father-in-law. To worship your father-in-law as your teacher, well, that's acceptable. So, he bowed to the middle-aged scribe on the spot. Disciple Qin Yi, pay my respects to the master. As soon as he announced his name, the jade tablet in the middle-aged scribe's hand automatically had a stream of air burning on it with iron and silver hooks. When a line of words was formed, he handed the jade tablet to Qin Yi. Very good. From now on, you will be a member of Quu Peak. From now on, your practice will be personally guided by my master. But don't rush for these 2 days. You can get familiar with it at Quu Peak first. Yes. After the middle-aged scribe finished speaking, he disappeared from where he was, coming and going without a trace. Qin Yi suddenly looked at the girl Ji Yu Yi. Now, should I call the girl junior sister Yi? The girl laughed and shook her head. No, in order of priority, I am the senior sister of Quu Peak. But you clearly look younger than me. It's not about age. By the way, what state is senior brother Hua Yunfeng in now? If you want to win love with a sword, you must first understand your competitors. Senior brother Hua Yunfeng, gold core is in the early stages. The girl mentioned senior brother Hua with a look of admiration. Even if senior brother Hua is not here, it does not prevent her from liking him. Except for the Qi refining period, which is divided into the 10th layer, all the major realms of Taoism have the 4th layer, the early stage, the middle stage, the late stage, and perfection. Since Hua Yunfeng was born with the innate body of Qi refining 9th layer, after so many years, he is still in the early stage of gold core. It seems that his speed of improvement is not very fast. The famous sword sect, since it is named after the sword, then why do I think senior brother Hua uses a silver spear? You don't understand this. Senior brother Hua was born with an invincible spear spirit. He practices spear skills better than sword skills. My uncle, the head of the family, specially requested the fire cloud piercer spear just for him. And, senior brother Hua is also very impressive. In just half a year, he has mastered the fire cloud piercer. We were ambushed outside before, but it was also thanks to senior brother Hua that he killed the enemy and bought us time, so we were able to survive. Come back. Ambush. Are you talking about those 2-meter-tall giants? Yes, they are demon Dao demons. They have targeted us for some reason. Speaking of which, this time is really dangerous. Then junior sister Yi, what state are you in now? Qin Yi asked. The girl then replied, I am currently at the 6th layer of Qi refining, which is higher than you. She looked proud, but she quickly realized it and frowned slightly. I'm not a junior sister, I'm a senior sister. You have to call me senior sister. Qin Yi immediately changed the subject. So, junior sister Yi, are you a sword practitioner? Yes. The girl nodded, but then shook her head. You have to call me senior sister. Qin Yi was already calling the system in his heart. Since the system wants him to fight for love, he can't just advance half a level of cultivation in advance, but at least match some martial arts and special talents. When he just had this idea, the soft voice of Yu Jia in his mind had already taken the initiative to send a reply. Dear host, in order to help the host rise smoothly, the system gives the host full-level understanding, full-level creativity, and full-level imitation ability. Any technique must be learned by the host. Closing square bracket. As soon as the system's announcement ended, Qin Yi felt an inexplicable cooling sensation in his head. Tisk. Full-level understanding, full-level creativity, full-level imitation ability. This additional ability is really good. With a full level of understanding, he can learn any skill and master it immediately. With a full level of imitation ability, I am afraid that I can imitate others. If I see what martial arts others use, I can imitate them immediately. As for the full level of creativity, is it possible that after reaching a certain level of understanding, one can also create martial arts techniques? The system's gentle sister Yu Yin. Yes, the host can create his own martial arts skills. As long as they comply with the principles of the skills, any creation can be considered a superior skill. Closing square bracket. Bullshit. As long as it conforms to the principles of the practice, any creation can be considered a superior practice. I have to say, this is the biggest hang-up. It is in line with the principles of the martial art. This is easy to understand. It cannot be the kind of magical skill that can cause the heaven and earth to break apart with just one palm. It is impossible for such a powerful magical skill to exist. If you want to say it is consistent with the principle, then rush in a designated direction, cause 350 points of damage to the enemy, and accumulate a sword energy at the same time. When the accumulated sword energy reaches 4 channels, you can enter the night state and release the Green Lotus Sword Song. Qin Yi joked and thought about Li Bai's skills in honor of kings. However, the next second, the gentle voice of the system queen came out. Dear host, congratulations on your creation of Green Lotus Sword Song. This technique is in line with the principles of heaven and has become a mark and blessing on the host. Closing square bracket. Qin Yi was stunned, and soon felt the mark of a sword shadow floating in his dantian. Qinglian Sword Song. Is this enough? In disbelief, he walked to the edge of the martial arts arena and suddenly took out an iron sword from the weapons rack. The girl Ji Yi looked at him curiously. Do you want to learn swordsmanship? She pouted and smiled. If you want to learn swordsmanship, you have to practice the basic skills first. If you don't practice the basic skills well, you won't be able to hold the sword steadily. As she spoke, she flicked her fingers, and a burst of energy hit Qin Yi's iron sword. The mark of Qinglian Sword Song in Qin Yi's body awakened, and the man and sword became one. Even though the energy came suddenly, it did not knock the iron sword from his palm, but made him hold it tighter. The young girl Ji Yi was surprised when she saw that she had not knocked off Qin Yi's iron sword. But then, a scene that surprised her even more appeared. Qin Yi suddenly shuttled towards the open space ahead, like a snow-white sword light, piercing the quiet sky. And where Qin Yi was just now, there was a shadow left behind. Qin Yi shuttled through the open field twice in a row, and his sword energy struck 4 wooden stakes at the same time. Then, Qin Yi disappeared. The girl was dumbfounded as she saw Qin Yi's whole body turned into sword energy, and he struck 5 times at the wooden stake. The 5 sword energies split on the ground, and the wooden pile with a diameter of 1 meter split into pieces in an instant. Oh my God! The girl covered her mouth, her eyes filled with little stars of surprise. What kind of swordsmanship is this? The next moment, Qin Yi returned to the original place inexplicably and overlapped with the phantom. After performing this set of Qinglian Sword Song, his whole body felt very happy. The swordsmanship created by himself is indeed different. He can perform any move with ease. Although he has just created it, when he uses it, it feels like he has practiced hard for 10 years. Qin Yi, what kind of sword technique is this? It's so strange. I have never seen this kind of sword technique before. The girl Ji Yi asked curiously. Qin Yi smiled slightly and looked into her eyes. Want to learn? I'll teach you. Are you willing to teach me? I heard from my father that some people have extraordinary talents. When they first entered Taoism, they were taught by God and would get the innate kung fu. Just like senior brother Hua, he also has a set of innate kung fu. It's amazing. Is it senior brother Hua again? Of course I'm willing to teach. As long as junior sister wants to learn, I'm willing to teach you anything. Qin Yi said to her sincerely. The girl Ji Yi was looking straight at him, and coupled with his sincere words, she felt shy for a moment. She lowered her head slightly. Why? Because from the first time I saw my junior sister, I liked her from the bottom of my heart. Naturally, I would do anything for the person I like. Qin Yi said straightforwardly. When chasing a girl, you have to be straightforward and try to make her shy. As long as the other person is shy, won't you not be shy anymore? And this way of speaking can be said to be very normal in later generations. Because even if you say this, the other girl will think you are joking and won't take it too seriously. However, in this world, it is different from modern times. People in this world are generally somewhat similar to ancient China, and the expressions of love between men and women are relatively subtle. Therefore, when she heard Qin Yi say, like, so bluntly, the girl Ji Yi immediately blushed with embarrassment, then turned her back to him. What are you talking nonsense about? Quote. With her shyness, Qin Yi no longer needed to be shy, and continued to speak bluntly. I'm not talking nonsense, I'm telling the truth. When I first saw my junior sister, I felt that she was like a fairy. Of course, this is just my liking, and you don't have to think of it as a psychological burden, but please don't limit my liking for you. You have to flirt with girls to get them. Normal teasing is not licking girls. There is a difference between teasing and licking. The girl Ji Yi may have heard such a fierce and straightforward confession for the first time since she was a child, and she felt shy and nervous. Don't say such things. If you keep saying it, I will ignore you. Okay, I won't say anything. The essence of flirting with girls is to hit the mark and stop. If the other person is not disgusted, you can continue flirting, but if the other person shows resistance or dislike, you should stop it in time. Otherwise, if you continue to flirt, the effect will be counterproductive. Do you still need to practice this swordsmanship? Qin Yi asked her. Girl Ji Yu Yi. Forget it, that's your innate sword technique. You'd better learn it by yourself. Besides, your sword technique only seems to be 3 or 4 moves. There are few moves, which in her opinion are like useless. Because when fighting with others, the sword technique naturally becomes more effective as it becomes more varied. There are many moves that can make your opponents unpredictable. You only have 3 or 4 tricks. If you play around, others will be able to crack it easily. Besides, the girl Ji Yu Yi is also learning a set of swordsmanship. Before her own swordsmanship is mastered, it is useless to covet other swordsmanship. Let me take you somewhere. The girl blinked and suddenly suggested. Okay. Qin Yi didn't ask where he was going. Anyway, since the girl suggested it, it should be an interesting place. Immediately, the girl led the way and took him down from Quu Peak to another peak. There is a wider martial arts field on this mountain peak, and it is not a place where ordinary disciples can come up to practice martial arts. As soon as the 2 of them arrived here, they heard the sound of weapons clashing in the spacious martial arts field. Then, the 2 of them also saw a pair of men and women who were affectionate, practicing the same set of swordsmanship in tacit understanding. The sword energy was like frost. Under their sword energy, streaks of frost fell on the ground, forming patches of crystal-clear frost flowers. The girl Ji Yu Yi was about to introduce Qin Yi to this place, but when she saw the pair of men and women, the smile on her originally smiling face suddenly faded away. Then, she turned her back. Gritting her silver teeth, she ran down the mountain again. Qin Yi is following behind, how can he not understand? The man in the pair of men and women is none other than senior brother Hua Yunfang, and the woman, who is beautiful and graceful, is also her cousin Ji Yu Qingshuang. The person Ji Yu Yi likes is Hua Yunfang, but Hua Yunfang has always only had Ji Yu Qingshuang in his eyes. At this time, he and Ji Yu Qingshuang were practicing lovers' sword skills. How can this make her happy? Seeing that she was about to run down the mountain, Qin Yi hurriedly caught up with her from behind and held her hand. Junior sister Yi, you've already come here, why do you want to go down again? I don't want to go up there. Ji Yu Yi's eyes were filled with mist, and the pride in her bones made her unwilling to show her sadness and grievance in front of Qin Yi. And at this time, if it's a dog licking, you must persuade her in various ways, and then give her a wave of heartwarming actions. But as a person who wants to win love with a sword, if you want to win love with a sword, you have to continue flirting and use different tricks to flirt. I saw what seemed to be senior brother Hua Yunfang and a woman. The swordsmanship they practiced seemed to be in perfect harmony. Stop talking, I don't want to hear it. The girl shook her head and covered her ears. Qin Yi smiled and said, Junior sister Yi, how about we also practice sword practice? At this time, of course it cannot be said that if senior brother Hua Yunfang has you in his heart, he will definitely be jealous after seeing you practicing sword practice with other men, and then maybe he will stop him, so that he can know whether he has you in his heart. If you say this, it is definitely licking the dog, and you will have nothing in the end. As a person who takes the initiative to win over love, you have to have some art in speaking. The results may be the same, but the process must not be the same. I think that woman is neither as beautiful nor as agile as junior sister Yi. She is so poorly trained. If junior sister Yi takes action, she will definitely crush her in every aspect. When Ji Yu Yi heard this, she immediately replied, You're talking nonsense. That's my cousin. She is the strongest female disciple among the new generation of young people. How can you say something so bad? Although she said this, the sense of grievance on her face did weaken a bit. At this time, what every girl needs is not comfort, but a common enemy. Only in this way can it resonate with her. Of course Qin Yi knew that her cousin was excellent and beautiful. But at this time, you must belittle someone against your will. Qin Yi. Anyway, I just feel that she is not as good as junior sister Yi. Her agility looks too stiff and has no sense of beauty at all. Ji Yu Yi suddenly showed a hint of pride. When it comes to agility, she can't compare to me. I am one of the most agile among the younger generation. Qin Yi looked surprised. Junior sister Yi is indeed a powerful master. Ji Yu Yi's negative emotions seemed to be suppressed by his praise. She looked back at the top of the mountain. After thinking about it, she finally agreed to Qin Yi's suggestion. Her moist mouth slightly tilted a 3-point arc. Okay, since you are so discerning, then we will also let's go practice swordplay. Back on the mountain, the man and woman were still practicing their swordsmanship, and it was getting more and more intense in the later stages. The man is masculine and the woman is feminine. To be honest, the cooperation between the two is quite tacit. Moreover, the man's cultivation level is obviously much higher than that of the woman, but in order to cooperate with the woman, he also deliberately suppresses his own strength and always maintains the same level as the woman. After a few more close looks, Qin Yi's mind suddenly heard the gentle voice of Sister Yu. The system detects the appearance of the candidate daughter of destiny Jiyu Qingshuang, the task is triggered, and the host accepts to obtain Jiyu Qingshuang favorability mission. Closing square bracket. To steal Jiyu Qingshuang's love with a knife. You haven't even taken down Jiyu Yi yet, so you want to take over her beloved sister again. If the host is willing to accept it, because the task is completed in the novice stage, the reward can be increased by 2 levels. Closing square bracket. Qin Yi didn't pay much attention at first, and was just about to go to the weapons rack to get the sword with Jiyu Yi, but after hearing this reward, he was stunned. Mission accomplished, promoted 2 levels. According to the system's level algorithm, its first level refers to an entire realm of cultivation. Upgrading by 2 levels is equivalent to being directly upgraded from the Qi refining realm to the gold core realm. Why should the reward be twice as high as the reward for snatching Jiyu Qingshuang's love with a knife? After the task of seizing Jiyu Yi's love with a sword was successful, she was only promoted to 1 level. But Jiyu Qingshuang, who was able to win her love with a sword, was actually able to rise 2 levels. The system's gentle sister's voice came. Because Jiyu Qingshuang is a candidate for Daughter of Destiny, she is blessed with destiny, which is extraordinary. Closing square bracket. If the host accepts the task, half of the reward can be advanced in advance for 3 months. If the task fails, the reward will be withdrawn. Closing square bracket. Qin Yixin said that this system is quite good, unlike other messy systems that kill the host at every turn. Even if he fails here, the reward will only be withdrawn. But if I advance half of the reward again, then Qin Yi calculated that his current state was the 5th layer state of Qi refining. If he advanced half of it, he would be directly promoted to 1 level. Now you are already at the 5th layer of Qi refining. Even if you advance to 1 level, it will only be the foundation building stage. It's a bit uneconomical. Single quote. Anyway, the algorithm of the system directly improves the level by a large amount. If he reaches the foundation building stage tomorrow and advances half of the rewards in advance, he can become a gold core master overnight. After thinking about it like this, he calmed down, suppressed his excitement, decided to accept this task, and accepted it in no hurry. In addition to the uneconomical rewards, he also didn't want to make progress so fast from the beginning. Just imagine, he had just become a disciple of Que Jufeng and recognized Jiyu Yi's father, Jiyu Yanshan, as his disciple. Jiyu Yanshan hasn't taught him anything yet. If he makes rapid progress at this time, then Jiyu Yanshan as a master will definitely not have a sense of accomplishment, and he will not feel like a human being to him. But it would be different if he showed the potential to soar to the sky again after being taught by Jiyu Yanshan for a period of time. At that time, Jiyu Yanshan would feel that he had taught well, and that this disciple was indeed highly enlightened and a talent that could be made. The results are the same, but the results obtained through different processes are very different. Junior Sister Yi, after thinking about it, my Qinglian sword song is actually very suitable for you. After you practice it, you may be able to use it as a means of saving your life in the future. Why don't you let me teach you? After Qin Yi took an iron sword from the weapons rack, he decided to teach Jiyu Yi the Qinglian sword song. If Jiyu Yi wants to have some interaction with him, then this swordsmanship is the best medium. When Jiyu Yi was at the foot of the mountain, she seemed to have recovered. But after going up the mountain, seeing Hua Yunfeng and Jiyu Qingshuang, he started to become absent-minded again. When she heard Qin Yi's words, she said, "Oh," absently. Qin Yi didn't care, so he showed her the first move, add wine. After the demonstration, he told Jiyu Yi the key points and tips. After hearing this, Jiyu Yi also tried to lunge forward and practice drinking. But even if her realm is a little higher than Qin Yi's, she can use this wine to perform it lightly and not very lethal. In particular, after the dash, a shadow will be left in place. The third dash will return to the location of the shadow. This actually involves space power. The seemingly simple first move contains spatial rules that people below the gold core level cannot comprehend. After Qin Yi saw this problem, he asked the system if he could transfer the imprint of Qinglian sword song to others. If it can be transferred, then as long as Quu Yi inherits the mark of Qinglian sword song, she can master this sword technique immediately. The system's gentle voice. Of course you can, but to copy the mark of Qinglian sword song to someone else, you need to achieve a certain level of intimacy. Intimacy. This is easy to understand and anyone who understands it. Qin Yi. It's just that he and Quu Yi have just met. If he wants to have a relationship with her now, it's impossible even if he thinks about it. Gentle royal sister's voice. However, in order to assist the host to successfully win love with a knife, the host can teach her how to practice. Through physical touch, the woman will have a very pleasant experience. And after being taught step by step 10 times, the swordsmanship mark will be briefly copied into the opponent's body and will be valid for 30 minutes. Closing square bracket. Qin Yi. If it has this effect, you should have told me earlier. The step-by-step teaching can give women a very pleasant experience. With such magical skills, why worry about not being able to win over women? At this time, the man and woman practicing martial arts in the martial arts arena seemed to be about to stop. As their sword moves slowed down, they also noticed Quu Yi and Qin Yi. Seeing that they were about to stop, they seemed to want to come and say hello to Quu Yi. Seeing the opportunity, Qin Yi suddenly came to Quu Yi, put his arm around her waist with one hand, and corrected her arm with the other. Junior sister Yi, raise the sword a little higher, and I will teach you step by step. Suddenly being so close to a man, Quu Yi instinctively wanted to resist. However, in less than the next second, her body and mind inexplicably felt an unprecedented sense of joy. That feeling was like when she successfully entered Taoism for the first time and was praised by everyone. That was the happiest time for her. And now this feeling seems to be even stronger. As Qin Yi hugged her, he suddenly used Zhongju and Qin Yi thrust forward with her. The light of the sword is like snow, and one stroke is like a silver moon across the sky. Once you get there, it's just over 10 meters. After 2 thrusts, they were more than 20 meters away. When the third thrust was executed, the two of them swooped and returned to the same place. Before Quu Yi understood the principle of this, she suddenly saw that she was more than 20 meters across, and she could return to the starting point with a flicker. Her mood suddenly became joyful, and she couldn't help laughing. It's so magical. Qin Yi, come again, I want to learn, I want to learn. It is never difficult to please a girl. As long as you like her and don't bore her, you can achieve your goal in minutes. Okay. Qin Yi continued to teach her step by step how to practice the first move of drinking wine. Every time she completes the thrust and return, Quu Yi will feel an unprecedented sense of relief and pleasure. At first, she couldn't let go, for fear that senior brother Hua would see her so close to another boy. But after the second time, she seemed to have completely forgotten the existence of senior brother Hua. What an interesting swordsmanship. Qin Yi, come again. After teaching him step by step 10 times, the sword shadow mark of Qinglian sword song was briefly copied to Quu Yi's body. At this point, she was finally able to break away from Qin Yi and use her first move to enter the wine alone. After 10 times, although Qin Yi was not there to guide her, she was able to perform Zhang Jinju on her own, which still made her feel an incomparable sense of pride and accomplishment. I did it, Qin Yi, did you see it? Well, junior sister Yi's understanding is indeed amazing and amazing. Quu Yi was overjoyed, with a proud smile on her face. At this moment, she no longer corrected or refuted even the word, junior sister, that Qin Yi kept talking about. She seemed to have accepted it subconsciously in her heart. At the same time, the men and women who were practicing martial arts together on the martial arts field also stopped and walked towards this side together. The woman was wearing a long aqua dress, flowing like a fairy, unstained by the world. The tall and graceful figure, paired with a long aqua skirt, and the occasional exposed curves when walking, all highlight her beautiful and peerless elegance. Also because she and Quu Yi are cousins, the two sisters are 50 or 60% similar in appearance. However, in terms of personality, just the first impression alone can make people feel that Quu Yi is a lively and cute type. Quu Qingshuang, on the other hand, is the gentle and intellectual type. As for the man next to him, Hua Yunfang, he is probably 185 centimeters tall and has a pretty handsome face. He is also worthy of being the object of Quu Yi's secret love. He frowned slightly at this time, as if he was dissatisfied with Qin Yi's hugging and getting close to Quu Yi just now. Yi, who is he? After the man came over, the first thing he said was to ask Qin Yi's identity and origins in a wary tone. After Quu Yi was overjoyed, she finally came to her senses. Facing the question from her secret admirer, she smiled. Senior brother Hua. Why have I never seen him? Hua Yunfang asked. Quu Yi. He is my father's new disciple, his name is Qin Yi. Qin Yi, call someone quickly, these are senior brother Hua Yunfang, and my cousin Quu Qingshuang, you have to call me senior sister. Qin Yi did not pretend to be humble, and greeted everyone one by one. He just cupped his hands as a greeting. As Quu Yi's sister, Quu Qingshuang would be fine if she calls her senior sister. But although Hua Yunfang is also a member of the famous sword sect, he is not from Quu Peak. In his opinion, he is not worthy of the title of senior brother. Uncle 7th Master's new disciple. Why don't I know? What's the origin? Hua Yunfang stared at Qin Yi with a faint gaze, as if he wanted to see through Qin Yi's entire being. Qin Yi laughed when he heard this. You do not know. Quu Peak is going to accept disciples. Do we need to inform you in advance? The 7th elder, Quu Yanshan, has already accepted him as a disciple, but you still come to ask why. This clearly shows that he wants to show off his power. Naturally, Qin Yi couldn't get used to him, and the more times like this, the more he had to show his strength. It is necessary to establish an image in Quu Yi and even Quu Qingshuang's heart that is not weaker than Hua Yunfang. Even if his current strength is not as good as Hua Yunfang, at least in terms of integrity and temper, he must not act like a weakling and be submissive. Qin Yi who said, Junior sister Yi, is this also from Quu Peak? Quu Yi did not smell the smell of gunpowder between the two men. Senior brother Hua is the disciple of the second uncle, who is at Quu Peak. Qin Yi nodded. It turns out he is from Quu Peak. This person from Quu Peak has such a long hand and wants to take care of Quu Peak's affairs. It's really funny. As soon as he said these words, Hua Yunfang's eyes were as sharp as knives, and he suddenly narrowed his eyes. What did you say? It wasn't until this point that Quu Yi felt something was wrong, and hurriedly pulled Qin Yi. Qin Yi, what are you talking about? Qin Yi spread his hands. I'm right. Master accepts me as a disciple, which means he approves everything about me. But it's good for him to question my origins when we first met. Not only is this a bit nosy, a little disrespectful. Questioning Quu Yanshan's acceptance of disciples is naturally disrespectful. Hua Yunfang had a straight face. He was about to get angry when Qin Yi pushed him away. But in front of the two girls, he finally restrained himself. Furthermore, it may be because he saw that Qin Yi was just a new disciple, and with his status, he would not argue with a new disciple. So he said calmly, Yi, as the saying goes, those who are close to red are red and those who are close to ink are black. It is okay to practice swordsmanship with others, but don't practice swordsmanship with random people. Some people may not have pure intentions. The direction of this statement is very clear. It's almost a personal attack, saying that Qin Yi's purpose is not pure. Although Qin Yi's purpose was indeed not pure, through the system, he suddenly saw a water drop-shaped status description on Hua Yunfang's head. Jealous 30. I felt unhappy because I saw Quu Yi being hugged. This system is very interesting. You can see the favorability level on a woman's head, and you can actually see a jealousy level on a man's head. Hua Yunfang is jealous, but Hua Yunfang clearly has a real girlfriend by his side, yet he is jealous of his sister-in-law. This clearly shows that he is eating what is in the bowl and looking at what is in the pot. Bah, you are a scumbag. When Qin Yi looked carefully at the water drop-shaped status description, he also saw Hua Yunfang's fate description below. Son of luck, the future will soar. It turns out that this guy is still a child of luck. No wonder he was born with the 9th level of Qi refining. Single quote. It's no wonder that while he has Jiyu Qingshuang, he also arouses the secret love of his sister-in-law Jiyu Yi. As children of luck, in ordinary stories, such beautiful sisters would be included in the harem. Bah, you scumbag. Single quote. After Qin Yi cursed in his heart, he despised this guy even more. After Hua Yunfang finished saying this, he nodded to Jiyu Qingshuang beside him, flew with his sword first, and disappeared like a shooting star. Jiyu Qingshuang took a step slower and said to Jiyu Yi, Yi, I'm leaving first. After talking to Jiyu Yi, she nodded politely to Qin Yi. Qin Yi looked towards her and suddenly saw the status water droplets on her head, and actually saw a favorable opinion +5 from it. Cause of good impression. Almost all the new disciples of the famous sword sect are submissive and groveling when they see Hua Yunfang. Because the host is different from others, they treat them a little differently. Is this okay? Qin Yi didn't expect that this unintentional intervention would actually win Jiyu Qingshuang's favor. Although 5 points is not a good impression, at least this first impression is not bad. After Hua Yunfang and Jiyu Qingshuang left, Jiyu Yi seemed a little angry. Qin Yi, why are you talking to senior brother Hua like that? Senior brother Hua seems unhappy. Jiyu Yi said worriedly. Although Jiyu Yi is a girl, such a mentality will be regarded as a proper dog-licking mentality in future generations. If you're not happy, then you're not happy. It's not that I'm unhappy anyway. Qin Yi felt that he wanted to correct her concept and said, Junior sister Yi, for the sake of master, I have to say that. Even if Hua Yunfang wants to kill me, I will say that. Jiyu Yi was puzzled, her innocent little face showed confusion. For my dad. Why for my dad? Qin Yi, think about it, master must have recognized my character and background by accepting me as his disciple. Even master didn't question it, but he came to question it. Isn't this tantamount to slapping master in the face? He targeted me, it doesn't matter to me, but master is so kind to me, how can I let him slap master in the face? Normally, Hua Yunfang definitely didn't mean this. Hua Yunfang was simply jealous, so he was somewhat targeted. But Qin Yi magnified the matter and deliberately involved the master's face. After what he said, this was considered reasonable. Jiyu Yi suddenly realized that Qin Yi respected his father so much in his heart. But senior brother Hua, you probably don't mean that. She explained for Hua Yunfang. Who knows the person but not the heart. Anyway, as long as someone questions master in front of me, I will not allow it. Having said this, he immediately dropped the topic. This kind of issue is not suitable for in-depth study. At present, bringing the two people closer is the top priority. Junior sister Yi, shall we continue practicing swordsmanship? Do you practice swordsmanship? Jiyu Yi was very interested before, but after Hua Yunfang's interference, she is now less interested. Although she thought it was okay to practice swordsmanship with Qin Yi, senior brother Hua seemed unhappy just now. Moreover, senior brother Hua also said that. The implication was that he clearly did not want her to practice sword practice with Qin Yi. If senior brother Hua knows that I still practice swordsmanship with Qin Yi, he will definitely be very disappointed, right? She thought so in her heart. After all, she has been secretly in love with Hua Yunfang for so long, while Qin Yi is just a person who has just arrived and has not known him for a day. In her mind, it was obvious which of the two was more important. However, just when she was trying to find an excuse to evade, Qin Yi came up from behind her and took the initiative to hug her soft waist. Jiyu Yi instinctively wanted to refuse, but in the next second, that special feeling of pleasure came again. Qin Yi, I want to rest. Although the pleasure made her happy, she still chose to give up for the sake of the person she secretly loved. But how could Qin Yi let her leave now? If we let her go this time, I'm afraid it won't be easy to have such an opportunity next time. So, he immediately took Jiyu Yi to practice the second move, the stroke of God. He was taught step by step, and when the long sword was drawn 360 degrees, a sword formation with rotating sword light immediately appeared on the ground. If an enemy touches the outside of the sword circle at this time, 100 points of physical defense will be reduced. After all, this is a character skill in the game. Translated into a fantasy world, This 100-point reduction in physical defense is estimated to be able to crush the opponent's armor, clothing, and body-protecting aura. When you see the sword circle taking shape, the sword light in the middle is spinning erratically. Quu Yi also forgot her previous worries again and became happy. It's so magical, but it's a pity that the range of this sword formation is not wide. Large sword arrays cover an extremely wide area. Once the sword energy breaks out, it will be like a torrential downpour. The sword formation that Qin Yi taught her to use only had itself as the center of the circle and was only 3 meters wide in diameter. Qin Yi, why is this move called a stroke of genius? Qin Yixin said, who knows what the game planner is thinking? He wants to use a stroke of genius. What can I do? Well, I probably used the sword energy as a pen to draw the sword formation. The sword formation took shape instantly, just like the magic pen. So that's it. The sword formation only existed for 3 seconds, and disappeared after 3 seconds. Different from the first move of sprinting, the Silver Moon sword light is very obvious, and it can make people feel that its lethality is amazing. This second move just draws a circle on the spot, and it really doesn't show much lethality. Therefore, Quu Yi questioned, this move looks very magical, but it doesn't seem to have much lethality. Are you kidding? Innocent. Among Li Bai's skills, only these 2 skills are the essence. Whether he can kill people in seconds depends on whether the outside of the sword circle can scratch people. Therefore, if these 2 skills are placed randomly, they are of course useless, but if they are placed accurately, they are magical skills. Qin Yi planned to give her a demonstration, and immediately targeted a big tree and prepared to use the outside of the sword circle to scrape the big tree. Based on his current level of cultivation, once these 2 skills are released, the sword energy in the outer circle should be able to cut off the big tree directly. Junior sister Yi, I won't say much more about whether this move is strong or not. I will just show you how to use it, and you will know. Okay. Quu Yi's beautiful eyes sparkled and she looked on expectantly. Qin Yi came to the big tree with a smile in front of her, took a deep breath, and made a 360-degree stroke with his long sword. The pen of magic took shape immediately, and the sword energy reverberated in the middle. He looked back and saw that the big tree had not fallen down. Looking carefully, it turns out that the sword circle of this magical stroke is only 2 fingers away from the big tree. Tisk, I missed it. These 2 skills are really not that easy to use. No wonder when I was playing games in the past, my teammates always said, Li Bai betrays his teammates, just draw a circle and leave. Quu Yi, who was full of expectations, smiled when she saw this. Qin Yi, what are you going to show me? Qin Yi looked a little embarrassed and was just about to get closer and do it again. But I heard Quu Yi say, whether it's powerful or not, you can actually tell if you just let someone try it. After saying this, she flew towards the sword circle without waiting for Qin Yi's consent. Qin Yi saw this and hurriedly stopped him and shouted, don't come over. He didn't know how lethal this stroke of magic was. If it hurt the little fairy, it would be a sin. However, his stop was too late. Quu Yi rushed forward with determination, and landed on the outside of the sword circle as accurately as a flying fairy that day. At that moment, Qin Yi saw countless colorful pieces of clothes flying all over the sky. Quu Yi was so frightened that she froze completely. The next second, her face turned red and she screamed, "Ah!" Chapter 11. Qin Yi was dumbfounded for a moment when he saw the delicate body of a woman who was like mutton fat and white jade, youthful and energetic, slim and graceful. This magic stroke actually has the effect of blowing clothes off. So, the original armor-reducing effect of this skill has become an armor-breaking effect in this fantasy world. Although the explosive clothes did not cause any damage, the effect had to be said to be even better than armor reduction. Because no matter whether it is a man or a woman, once his clothes are blown off by this magic touch, and he becomes naked in public, then he will die on the spot. You still watch. Quu Yi covered her body and screamed, but her small hands were limited in what she could cover. It's not convenient to stand, nor is it convenient to squat. In her eagerness, she was filled with grievances and sadness, and tears fell down her cheeks. Die Qin Yi, stinky Qin Yi, you are not allowed to look. I don't look, I don't see anything. Qin Yi explained against his will. In fact, he had already seen everything he should see and shouldn't. The little girl is developing really well. But fortunately, no one else was present in the martial arts arena at this time, so it didn't count as exposure. He immediately took off his coat, threw it over, and then turned around. Junior sister Yi, put it on first, I really didn't see anything. Yi shyly picked up the clothes, not caring that they were men's clothes, and put them on while crying. Because I was so anxious, I tripped over my clothes and fell to the ground. Yi looked back at her worriedly, and accidentally looked at her again. Unexpectedly, his eyes were caught by Yi, and the girl let out a cry of, wow, and cried aggrievedly again, you still see. Yi, don't worry, I won't read it, I promise I won't. After a while, Yi put on her clothes. After all, men's clothes were too big for her. Just like women in later generations wearing men's t-shirts or shirts, it has a somewhat uniform temptation flavor. The loose clothes did not cover her graceful figure, but instead outlined some of her curves more faintly, making her mysterious and alluring. It's just that she was wearing only one piece of clothing. Although it could be used as a skirt, it was still inconvenient for her to walk. How can I go back? She was still crying. I'll take you back while there's no one around. Yi made a quick decision, suddenly came to her side, and hugged her like a princess. Under his careful care, Yi's skirt was tied tightly and bent inwards by his hands, so that the girl's thighs would not be exposed. At the same time, when he was carrying people down the mountain, he still used the first move of Qinglian's sword song, drinking wine. Yi was quite resentful at first, but for some unknown reason, after Yi used Qinglian's sword song, her sense of joy returned again. This also made her feel less resentful. But there is still a bit of girliness. At this time, the two of them were close at hand, and the girl was lying on the boy's chest. It was the first time that the girl felt the man's breath at such a close distance. For a moment, the emotion in her heart was not only shy, but also inexplicably felt like a deer colliding with her heart, feeling. She looked at the boy's appearance and couldn't help but raise her little fist and beat him on the chest. A gentle blow, of course it won't hurt. But Yi still cooperated with her and let out an ouch. Yi, stinky Yi, what kind of messed up swordsmanship are you doing? How could you explode someone's clothes? Yi said that he was wronged and he didn't know. Junior sister Yi, I really don't know this. This sword technique just appeared in my mind. I have never used it before, so I don't know its power. Besides, I also called you before and told you not to come over. It's you who don't listen. Yi's cheeks felt hot. Yi had indeed shouted before, telling her not to come over. But she thought, her cultivation level was higher than Yi's, and Yigang had just practiced this move, so how powerful could it be? So, she decided to try it out and test the power of this magic stroke for herself. But who would have thought that as soon as she came into contact with the sword energy of the magic pen, all her clothes and even her belly band would be torn to pieces. She was completely naked and let this guy look at her all over. Stop talking. The soft little hand suddenly raised up and covered Yi's mouth. Did you really see nothing? There were still tears hanging from the corners of Yi's eyes, but she asked him extremely seriously at this time. Yi thought, if she said she saw everything, she would probably have to cry for a long time, right? But if you say nothing, you will waste this opportunity to quickly get closer. You must know that in The Swordsman, why did Lin Pingji come from behind and snatch the little junior sister from Lingu Chong? This is because Lin Pingji is more flirtatious and bold. Moreover, women are highly receptive to good-looking men who suddenly appear in their lives. For example, if a male classmate is transferred to a class, as long as he is handsome, he will definitely be popular among the female classmates soon. Because this is freshness. Therefore, Yi can't say that he didn't see anything now. If you don't see anything, you are throwing away the opportunity. I saw half of it. He thought about it and said this. Yi opened her big tearful eyes, and the hazy mist was floating, half. Which half? Is it the upper half or the lower half? Yi thought for a moment and was about to speak when suddenly the tender white hand stretched out again and covered his mouth. Don't say it, don't say it, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to hear anything. You saw nothing, you must see nothing. She wiped away her tears and warned fiercely. This time, Qinyi nodded. Anyway, I have already said this and let her know, that's all. For such a simple girl, having her body looked at by a boy for the first time will give her a feeling of first time. Therefore, he certainly can't say he didn't see anything. In this way, he quickly returned to Quu Peak with Ji Yi in his arms. While passing by a Songxia lake, I met two people. They were two male disciples. They saw Qinyi from a distance, and even saw Qinyi holding Ji Yi in his arms. One of the male disciples opened his voice and shouted, "Who are you? Let go of junior sister Yi." Hearing his shout, Ji Yi immediately urged Qinyi, go quickly, don't let him see it." Seeing Ji Yi's nervousness, he would speed up even if she didn't say anything. After all, how can one's own woman satisfy others' eyes? Immediately, the first move was to enter the wine, and he used it again. With one thrust, he was more than 10 meters away, and with two thrusts, he was far away. After going up the mountain, Qinyi followed the girl's guidance, avoiding everyone's sight, and finally went to the inner courtyard. When they arrived at the inner courtyard, the girl jumped out of his arms anxiously, ran away like a rabbit with her bare legs. When leaving, he did not forget to tell Qinyi, "Qinyi, you are not allowed to talk nonsense or read nonsense." Qinyi looked at her cute look and couldn't help laughing, okay. After watching the girl disappear, he followed the original path. But as soon as he returned to the martial arts field at Quu Peak, he ran into the two male disciples who were chasing him. The clothes worn by these two male disciples were obviously different from other disciples. The overall clothing is the same, but their collars and cuffs have special edges. One is gold-edged and the other is silver-edged. Based on common sense, we might guess that these two male disciples are the first and second disciples on Quu Peak. "Who are you? You are so bold, you dare to break into Quu Peak without permission." The leader is tall and broad, with a square face, like a strong man, about 20 years old. The one with silver sleeves next to him looked a little quiet and didn't talk much. He observed Qinyi carefully and seemed to recognize Qinyi. He quickly pulled the Phnom Penh disciple and whispered a few words. After hearing this, the Phnom Penh disciple frowned. "Are you the one who fell from the sky?" Qinyi descended from the sky and rescued Ji Yi. Most people on Quu Peak knew about this. This Phnom Penh disciple had heard about Qinyi because he was not in the sect today. Therefore, although he did not recognize Qinyi, he had heard about Qinyi. But even if you save junior sister Yi, you shouldn't be rude to her. "Junior sister Yi, is it something you can hug?" the Phnom Penh disciple asked angrily. When he was down there, he was sure that he was right. The woman Qinyi was holding was definitely junior sister Yi. And junior sister Yi seems to have bare legs. Although it doesn't look real, the situation is definitely not ordinary. Qinyi looked at the two people looking for trouble in front of him, and suddenly found jealousy on their heads. Phnom Penh disciple, 90 points of jealousy. Yinbian disciple, 70 points of jealousy. You must know that Hua Yunfang was jealous before, but it was only 30 points. With this value of these two disciples, they were jealous to the point of flying. It turns out that they are all suitors of junior sister Yi. After understanding the whole story, Qinyi didn't seem so disgusted with finding trouble between these two people. It's human nature to be jealous. "I'm sorry, junior sister Yi took the initiative to let me hold her." Qinyi directly declared his sovereignty. If he wants to pursue Ji Yi, then Ji Yi is his, and other cats and dogs should not even think about intervening. Stop talking nonsense here. How could junior sister Yi make such a request? Phnom Penh disciples don't believe it, they firmly don't believe it. If you don't believe it, you can ask her yourself later. Qinyi didn't explain. The Phnom Penh disciple gritted his teeth and looked at Qinyi hatefully. At this time, a disciple in the martial arts arena also came over. He was probably on good terms with the Phnom Penh disciples, so he also revealed some things to the Phnom Penh disciples. That is, before the disciples from Phnom Penh came back, their master had already accepted Qinyi as his disciple. "What, master, you actually accepted him as your disciple?" The disciple who came over from the martial arts field even told him a shocking news in a low voice. That is, Qinyi entered the Tao when he touched the enlightenment stone for the first time, broke through the 5th layer level in one breath, and reached the 5th layer state of Qi refining. After hearing this, the Phnom Penh disciple's eyes widened even more, and his heart felt as if he had been hit hard several times. I touched the enlightenment stone for the first time, entered the Tao directly, and even broke through the 5th layer level in one breath, reaching the 5th layer state of Qi refining. He was still questioning just now, why would Master accept such a person as his disciple? Is it because he saved junior sister Yi? But Qin Yi's method of saving people was obviously just a coincidence. For such people, giving some money is enough to repay them. But for a genius who can break through the 5th layer barrier in one breath and reach the 5th layer state of Qi refining, the reason why Master accepts him is obvious and natural. No elder would turn a blind eye to such a talented disciple. After listening to the words, the Phnom Penh disciple felt surprised, angry, jealous, resentful, and various emotions mixed together. In the end, Qin Yi became unhappy no matter how he looked at him. If such a talented disciple joins Quu Peak, it is no surprise that he will definitely threaten his status in the future. Especially thinking about the fact that just now Qin Yi was running on the mountain road with junior sister Yi in his arms. This guy dared to hug junior sister Yi and run away as soon as he arrived. If he had stayed at Quu Peak for a little longer, wouldn't junior sister Yi? He did not dare to think deeply, shook his head suddenly, and shouted at Qin Yi, "You have reached the 5th layer of Qi refining for the first time. Are you very proud? Are you not even letting me, your senior brother, go? In your eyes, big brother." It seems that Qin Yi's guess is indeed correct. The Phnom Penh disciple is the senior brother, and the Silver Bian disciple should be the second senior brother. In ordinary sects, the status of the eldest brother is still very high. When the master is not around, the eldest brother is still responsible for teaching. Teach my brothers to practice martial arts. At the same time, the senior brother must also be the person with the highest cultivation level among the younger generation. System, can I check the strength information of this senior brother? Qin Yi suddenly asked in his heart. The system's gentle voice soon sent a reply, and the reply was in the form of rough data appearing above the senior brother's head. Elder brother Huang Tianrong, who is at the 9th level of Qi refining, is good at Fire Dao, and majors in Tianji sword technique. In just one line of words, Qin Yi had a general understanding of this senior brother. Then he looked at his second senior brother Ni Jianyan, at the 8th level of Qi refining, good at waterway, majoring in Xuanji sword technique. The Mingjian sect is famous for its swordsmanship and has 5 major swordsmanships, which belong to the 5 elements. They are the metallic, sword of heaven, the wood-based, eternal life sword, the water-based, Xuanji sword, the fire-based, Tianji sword, and the earth-based, infinite sword. These 5 sword skills are the foundation of the famous sword sect. Qin Yi looked disdainful of them after reading their information. It's okay to be jealous. As a man, there's no shame in being jealous. But if you use your status as senior brother to oppress others, this is a bit disrespectful of martial ethics. You and I have just met for the first time, so why don't you take your senior brother seriously? In fact, I really don't take you seriously, but you are questioning this matter in a tone of accountability, which is a bit provocative. Elder brother, what's your advice? Qin Yi didn't show weakness. Since he wants to stay on Quu Peak in the future, he cannot avoid the first and second senior brothers. Since you can't avoid it, you might as well make the relationship and position clear when you first get to know each other. As the senior brother, Huang Tianrong snorted coldly, maybe because of his preconceived impression, he was unhappy with this new junior brother no matter what. On the first day after joining the temple, you dared to talk to him, the senior brother, in such a tone. If you don't teach him a lesson, then everyone will follow suit in the future. Then where is the majesty of the senior brother? The most important thing is that this new disciple needs to know what it means to be heaven and earth. As a new disciple of Quu Peak, do you know what you should and shouldn't do? Huang Tianrong asked him. Qin Yi, I would like to hear the details. Huang Tianrong pointed in the direction of the kitchen. New disciples, you should abide by the rules. Are you allowed to come to this martial arts arena? Every new disciple must work in the kitchen for 3 years, and then it will be decided based on their talent. You are qualified to perform martial arts. You just rushed here on your first day. Do you really think that Quu Peak is a human vegetable market? He stood on the commanding heights of the sect's rules and used rules and regulations to hold him accountable. Although anyone with a discerning eye could see that he was making things difficult for Qin Yi, even the elders couldn't find fault with this kind of making things difficult. At best, he was too harsh. Qin Yi laughed in his heart, using rules to pressure me. Rules are used to restrain ordinary people, and any rules and royal laws in the world are also used to rule ignorant people and ordinary people. How can a transmigrator like him, with buff added to his body, be bound by the rules? Immediately, he replied, "It's a pity. Although it is a rule to do odd jobs, it has nothing to do with me. Master has already said that I don't have to do any chores, and what I will learn in the future will be guided by Master himself. I am different from you." Qin Yi is very self-aware of his own position. The system he awakened is to steal love with a sword. Judging with normal thinking, can a person who always steals love with a sword be a decent person? Of course not. Therefore, he knew that if he continued to develop, he might become a villain. Since he is a villain, does he still need to be low-key, humble, and polite? A villain should act like a villain, and to be arrogant to ordinary people, he should be as arrogant as he should be. Follow your heart, whatever makes you feel comfortable. After hearing what he said, Huang Tianrong's face suddenly turned as dark as pig liver. Are they different from these people? To be precise, this is true. In the entire Quu Peak, Qin Yi was the only one who touched the enlightenment stone for the first time and directly stepped into the fifth layer realm of qi refining. This is beyond the reach of others. In terms of talent alone, no one can match it. But Qin Yi said this openly in front of so many people. Isn't that a bit too arrogant? Being modest, tactful, hiding one's clumsiness, don't you understand at all? Master has ever said such a thing? A disciple scratched his head. He had witnessed Qin Yi being accepted as a disciple by his master on the martial arts field before, but it seems that his master never said this. Don't believe me? You can ask. Qin Yi shrugged. If you don't believe it, just go and ask master yourself. See if you dare. Based on the characters of these old-fashioned people, Qin Yi was sure that they would most likely not dare to ask. Huang Tianrong looked at the disciple. Did master say that? The disciple stammered. This, hesitated for a moment, and seeing Qin Yi being so sure, he also wondered if he had remembered it wrong. Faced with Huang Tianrong's urging, he sighed, "It seems. I seem to have said that, I may have remembered it wrong." Huang Tianrong pushed him away angrily. Even if the master doesn't let you work in the kitchen, as a new disciple, shouldn't you show some expression when you see the senior brother? It's too disrespectful for you to be so arrogant. Some expression. What kind of expression should I have? Huang Tianrong winked at the disciple next to him, and the disciple nodded knowingly, then took 3 steps back and half bowed to Huang Tianrong. This is the etiquette that ordinary disciples treat their senior brothers with. Respecting superiors and inferiors is a basic virtue and etiquette cannot be abolished. In addition to me, there are your second senior brother, third senior brother, fourth senior brother, and fifth senior brother. Today is your first day of entry, and you probably haven't seen any ceremony with any of the senior brothers. This is against the rules. You must meet these basic requirements. Huang Tianrong pointed at the people meditating in the martial arts field. Anyway, from the senior brother to the 789th senior brother, to the 24th senior brother and the 36th senior brother, Qin Yi, as the youngest, should be greeted by them all. This is basic etiquette. Huang Tianrong had no reason to teach Qin Yi a lesson now, but he could still make use of basic etiquette. As long as Qin Yi obeys his arrangement, stays humble and bows to every senior fellow apprentice, then his goal will be achieved. What does it mean to show off one's power? This is it. So what if you touch the enlightenment stone and directly reach qi refining 5th layer? You are very talented, so what if master values you? If I ask you to bow, you still have to bow. This is called your majesty. When Qin Yi heard this, he couldn't help showing a disgusted expression. This reminded him of the workplace of later generations. When you join a certain company, on the first day, the old employees almost always like to bully people like this. But are old employees awesome? They are all part-time workers. Where do you get the sense of superiority from and think of yourself as a senior or leader? Instructing new employees to do this or that is to bully new employees into not daring to say no. In the same way, these disciples on Quu Peak just joined the sect before Qin Yi. Just because of this, do they dare to call themselves the elders of their elders? Also suitable, Qin Yi didn't need to create a good group atmosphere, so he refused directly. With your talents, you are not worthy of me bowing to you. After leaving these words, he wanted to walk away. However, Huang Tianrong, who was waiting for him to surrender, became furious when he heard that he actually said such words. Not worthy. You are a newcomer, you are really arrogant. Stop. Huang Tianrong took the lead and intercepted Qin Yi. Qin Yi glanced at him sideways. What else do you want to advise? If you still want to talk about various rules, don't talk about it. I am too lazy to listen. If you have any dissatisfaction, you can go to the master to discuss it. Of course, Huang Tianrong did not dare to go to his master. If he went to his master just for this matter, the master would accuse him of being so small-minded as a senior brother, and such a trivial matter would alarm him. What's wrong with you, senior brother? Effect. You are very talented, and everyone knows that you are good. Since you are so good, come and compete with these senior brothers you look down on. If you can beat them, then forget it. If you can't beat them, then you have to learn what it means to be humble and what it means to be a human being. As soon as Huang Tianrong's words came out, everyone present cheered and agreed. After all, this Qin Yi is so crazy that everyone dislikes him. Discussion. On my first day, you want to discuss with me. Isn't it a bit bullying? Qin Yi asked. On the first day of entry, new disciples haven't learned anything yet, so they're going to compete with you old-timers. Doesn't this mean that when a new employee first joins the company, the old employees will drag him to compare their business abilities? I just came to the company on my first day, and I haven't figured out the work yet, so you're competing with me on business matters. Haha. Huang Tianrong knew that he would refuse, because normal people would refuse, but he wanted to block Qin Yi's refusal. Aren't you in the innate qi refining 5th layer realm? This is the standard configuration of a genius. As a genius, you don't even dare to compete. Is this still a genius? Huang Tianrong looked around and smiled disdainfully. What do you think? People like Qin Yi who reach the 5th layer of qi refining in the first time are actually innate talents. What's more, if you are just starting out for the first time, as long as you step directly into the first layer of qi refining, you will be considered an innate talent. Ordinary people can only cultivate step by step. This is an acquired talent. Innate's talents are all geniuses, this is recognized. As a genius, if you don't even dare to compete, then you can just call yourself a loser. A loser dares to be so arrogant. I suggest that he go back and read the books to understand what Yulang arrogance means. Huang Tianrong sneered. Whether Qin Yi accepted it or not, his goal was achieved. Now all the disciples on Quu Peak have a bad impression of Qin Yi. If Qin Yi doesn't dare to accept it, then all the disciples will have a topic to laugh at him. Geniuses are as timid as useless wood. If Qin Yi dares to accept it, assuming that he is a new disciple and has learned nothing, no matter who he uses to compete with him, he will definitely lose. Once he enters the martial arts arena, he will be beaten to a state of embarrassment and even more humiliated. In other words, whether Qin Yi accepts it or not, he is in his game. You're an arrogant person, and you don't know how to behave. I'd like to see how you manage to survive on Quu Peak in the future. Single quote. Huang Tianrong crossed his arms and watched coldly, waiting for Qin Yi's response. Qin Yi's cold eyes swept over everyone present. He actually didn't want to pay attention to these people. In his eyes, the only person who is worthy of being his opponent is the son of fate, Hua Yunfang. As for others, people like Huang Tianrong are not qualified at all. Therefore, he didn't even want to say a few more words. However, his disregard was regarded as cowardice by Huang Tianrong and others. Don't dare, how dare I not dare to spar with you wastes? Since you want to compare notes so much, let's do it. Qin Yi nodded and finally chose to accept it. He squeezed his fingers and made a loud bang. When Huang Tianrong heard his answer, his face suddenly smiled, and his heart became even more joyful. With a glance towards the martial arts arena, the brothers meditating there immediately stepped aside to make way for a large open space. It seems that our talented junior brother is still a bit brave. Huang Tianrong praised with his mouth, but he was laughing in his heart. If you don't accept stupid things, others will laugh at you at most, but if you accept them, then be prepared to suffer. You can choose any of these senior brothers standing in front of you. Huang Tianrong selected 10 people from the crowd and asked them to stand in front of Qin Yi. The strength of these people is at the 5th layer level of qi refining. The same qi refining 5th layer, this is very fair. Qin Yi glanced at these 10 people and suddenly said, "There is no need to choose, it's just you." He looked down upon none of these people. So either don't fight, or if you want to fight, hit the most powerful among them and establish your prestige directly. As long as his prestige is established this time, no one on this Quu Peak will dare to talk in front of him. What? Me? When Huang Tianrong heard this for the first time, he thought he heard it wrong, so he asked again, "You choose me?" Qin Yi had already taken an iron sword from the weapon rack and jumped onto the martial arts stage. "Yes, it's you, but it's not interesting just to compete. How about we add some bonuses?" Huang Tianrong smiled and looked around cheerfully. He and his buddies looked at Qin Yi as if they were fools. "What kind of lottery do you want?" The 10 choices Huang Tianrong arranged for Qin Yi were already unfair. The one with the lowest cultivation level among the 10 people has been at the 5th layer realm of qi refining for at least several months. He has been consolidating for several months. In addition, he has been practicing on the Quu Peak and has a profound foundation. As a new disciple of Qin Yigang, how can you compare yourself with others? You can't even defeat any one of these 10 people, and you actually want to challenge the most powerful senior brother directly. Let's do this. You and I will compete. If you lose, then from now on this Quu Peak, I will be the senior brother. When you see me from now on, you will all have to bow. Is that okay? Qin Yi said. If you want to live in Quu Peak, becoming a senior brother should be considered a standard requirement. Huang Tianrong and other disciples couldn't help laughing after hearing this. Although they wanted to laugh, they still tried hard to hold it back. What naive and stupid people they were. What if you lose? If I lose, then I will be my little brother. When I see you from now on, I can pay homage to you every time. Okay, then it's settled. Huang Tianrong's expression suddenly became serious. What he wanted was Qin Yi's words. Now that the conditions have been made clear, don't just talk without practicing. It's a deal. Huang Tianrong, all the junior brothers present here must bear witness. Don't let some people regret and deny it after losing later. This is what he asked for, and it was definitely not forced by me, Huang. Even if it is master, if I ask, you can be my witness. Qin Yi, you'd better remember that if I win, then I will be the senior brother from now on. As soon as the two of them finished speaking, a beautiful figure suddenly walked out from the backyard. That was Ji Yi, who had already changed into her skirt. At this time, she was wearing a long aqua dress, and her slender figure was gentle and youthful. She came out with a blushing face. She wanted to find Qin Yi and give him a few more words, but as soon as she came out, she saw Qin Yi and Huang Tianrong saying something in the martial arts field. "Hey, what are you doing?" Ji Yi immediately ran over to join in the fun. A disciple who wanted to please her immediately told Qin Yi that he was going to challenge Huang Tianrong. After hearing this, Ji Yi cursed on the spot and pointed at Qin Yi. "You are stupid. You just started today, how can you beat the senior brother? Come down quickly, don't be stupid and get beaten up there." She also saw that this was obviously the senior brother and his group who wanted to teach Qin Yi a lesson, give him a show of strength and establish his prestige. But Qin Yi didn't seem to understand, so he stupidly went on stage. "Come down quickly," Ji Yi shouted again. Qin Yi replied, "Junior sister Yi, I'm fine, you don't have to worry." Ji Yi pouted. "Who is worried about you? I just remind you, don't ask for trouble." Senior brother Huang Tianrong said, "Junior sister Yi, you heard that I didn't mean to deliberately embarrass him. As a new disciple, he was too arrogant on the first day after entering the sect. I just let him out of good intentions. I had a brief exchange with other brothers, but who knew that he would challenge me when he opened his mouth, and I was forced to agree, but I didn't do it deliberately." Quote. Originally, seeing Ji Yi coming, Huang Tianrong thought that the matter might have to be dropped. But I didn't expect that this kid Qin Yi would not listen to the advice and still stayed on the martial arts stage. In these few words, Huang Tianrong completely removed himself. Even if what happens next, it will be Qin Yi's deserved punishment. After all, Qin Yi asked for all this. Junior sister Yi, since you are here, you can also serve as a witness. I will spar with Huang Tianrong. If I win, then from now on I will be the senior brother of Quu Peak, and he and the others will meet me once. I have to bow once to prevent him from breaking his promise. You can be the witness. With the master's daughter as witness, this matter will be settled. Ji Yu Yiyao's nose wrinkled slightly. Do you still want to be the senior brother? Don't you know that the senior brother is in the 9th layer realm of Qi refining? Why are you competing with him? Do you have to hit the wall before you turn back? Qin Yi has his own opinion. As long as the realm of Qi refining exceeds the 3rd layer of Qi refining, there is not much difference between the rest, whether it is the 5th layer or the 9th layer. The most important thing is that our famous sword sect is on a first-come, first-served basis. I don't think it's appropriate to rank the brothers in order. The position of senior brother should be occupied by those who are capable, and only in this way can other disciples be motivated to move forward. Otherwise, some people will always put on the airs of being a senior brother and show off their power just because they were the first to get started. That's outrageous, isn't it? Huang Tianrong was angry. Boy, who are you talking about showing off his power and power? Qin Yi, I'm talking about you, don't interrupt. Seeing that she couldn't persuade him, Ji Yu Yi stopped trying. She put her hands on her hips and said, since you don't hit the wall and don't look back, you might as well give it a try. Anyway, as long as no one is killed, I won't bother to care about you. Huang Tianrong was so angry that he kicked an iron sword away from the weapons rack and grabbed it from the air. Then he did a somersault and rolled 3 feet away. Stop talking nonsense, let's compete, let's come and agree first. If you regret it now, get off the martial arts stage immediately. Otherwise, once I take action, but there will be no mercy. Qin Yi weighed the iron sword in his hand and found that it was quite handy. You don't need to be merciful, just use it with all your strength. In fact, what he just said was not wrong. As long as the realm of Qi refining exceeds the 3rd layer of Qi refining, there is actually not much difference between the 5th layer of Qi refining and the 9th layer of Qi refining. Because the Qi refining stage is equivalent to accumulating materials before building a house, such as reinforced concrete and red bricks. The higher the level of Qi refining, the more these materials are prepared. But these materials are all prepared for foundation building. Before the foundation building is completed, the materials are just materials and cannot be compared with Taoism. The first level of Qi refining is for fascia to open up, the second level for Qi refining is for flesh and blood, and the third level for Qi refining is for bones and organs. These 3 layers are the foundation of the Qi refining stage. As long as the foundation of these 3 layers is thick enough, in the later stage, those who practice the Qi refining 5th layer may not be weaker than the Qi refining 9th layer in terms of force. Of course, this premise is that you have not reached the foundation building stage. If you step into the foundation building stage, it will be completely different from the Qi refining stage. Full force, everyone present, please listen carefully. This is what he asked for. I am not trying to bully the small. Huang Tianrong snorted coldly, and the iron sword in his hand suddenly had a trace of red light injected into it. The secret sword technique is controlled by the technique of burning fire. As soon as Huang Tianrong's iron sword made a choking sound, a flame burst out from the tip of the sword. Then, under Huang Tianrong's low drink, the true energy in his body poured into the iron sword, making the flames grow stronger. Orange flames filled the entire sword body. Suddenly, he slashed with his long sword, and a scorching sword energy slashed towards Qin Yi in the shape of a crescent moon. A disciple in the field saw this move and exclaimed, Tianji sword technique, open fire state. Generally, disciples practice Tianji sword technique from the scorching state. That is to say, after the true energy is injected into the iron sword will become hot and hot. This is considered the first stage. In the second stage, the heat of the iron sword increases and it will be like red-hot coals. This is considered internal fire state. The fire within is contained but not released. The third stage is like Huang Tianrong, the flame is released, which is the open fire state. As long as you reach this third stage, you can be regarded as a master of swordsmanship, and you have understood the essence. Huang Tianrong can become Quu Peak's senior brother, and it is true that he is not a vain person, but an empty one. Just now, Huang Tianrong said that he would use all his strength, but everyone thought he was just talking. How could a new disciple like Qin Yi be able to withstand his full strength? But who knew that once he got started, he would use the third stage of Tianji swordsmanship, open fire state, which clearly showed that he was indeed attacking with all his strength. Whoosh! The orange flaming sword energy quickly rushed towards Qin Yi. Qin Yi suddenly stabbed to the left, using the first move of Qinglian sword song to enter the wine. The stabbing speed was very fast, just enough to avoid Huang Tianrong's sword energy. After he stabbed, he failed to hit the target, so the sword energy could not be accumulated. But after he stopped, he happened to be not too far away from the other disciples on the side, so he lightly patted the disciple with the blade of his sword. "Hey, get out of the way." This gentle pat was meant to remind others, but unexpectedly, as soon as he finished patting, he felt that the aura of the iron sword in his hand had become heavier. Sword chi accumulates once. Is this okay? Unintentionally, he accumulated sword energy once. Qin Yi unexpectedly used his iron sword to hit the disciple twice. The sword energy accumulated twice. Accumulate sword energy 3 times. When he was about to accumulate for the 4th time, the disciple stepped back several steps in disgust and did not let him succeed. At this time, Huang Tianrong also sprinted over. The iron sword in his hand was filled with flames, and wherever the iron sword passed, there was a scorching breath spreading in all directions. Qin Yi spotted his position and suddenly rushed forward with another thrust. As soon as he got close to Huang Tianrong, he used the second move, Magic Pen, on the spot. Huang Tianrong had never seen this sword technique before, and he didn't know the subtleties of it. When he was about to hit the outer circle of the sword energy, Ji Yi in the martial arts stage seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly covered her eyes. However, she was very curious in her heart, so she exposed a slit with her fingers like scissors, and peeped with her eyes wide open. As she watched, as soon as Huang Tianrong approached the outer ring of the magic pen, there was a sudden bang, and the clothes on his body instantly fell apart and exploded, revealing a naked body. In front of everyone, Huang Tianrong suddenly felt a chill in his body, and subconsciously crossed his legs to cover up his privacy. Qin Yi took advantage of this opportunity and swung his sword at Huang Tianrong's face. Sword chi accumulates 4 times. After successfully accumulating sword energy 4 times, the iron sword in his hand suddenly seemed to be sealing a beast and was about to escape from the cage. The Sha Ke Xing status is unblocked. Qin Yi did not hesitate and immediately used the third move of Qinglian sword song. At that moment, he seemed to have disappeared, turning into 5 sword energy and slashing at Huang Tianrong's body one after another. Huang Tianrong realized that something was wrong, so he could only mobilize all his true energy to protect his body and cover it for defense. This is also the first time Qin Yi has used Qinglian sword song against someone. Coupled with his 5th layer level of qi refining, the lethality of Qinglian sword song is still limited. Although the wooden stake can be chopped into pieces when struck on it, Huang Tian's 9th layer of refined qi, and after the true qi protects the body, these 5 sword qi can only be thrown on him like an iron whip. Only 5 red marks were thrown out on his face. At the same time, the impact of the sword energy also knocked him off the martial arts stage. But even so, the winner has been decided. From now on, I am the senior brother of Quu Peak. After the sword energy disappeared, Qin Yi appeared on the spot and put the iron sword back into its scabbard gracefully. You. Huang Tianrong fell to the ground, naked, angry and ashamed. At this time, he wanted to fight Qin Yi again, but he was also afraid that his embarrassing image would leave a bad impression on junior sister Yi. In the embarrassment, the second senior brother suddenly stepped forward, took off his coat and threw it towards Huang Tianrong. Huang Tianrong reached out to catch it and gave it a grateful look. After he put on his clothes, he jumped onto the martial arts stage again and said, "It doesn't count just now. I kindly let you, but you have to push your limits. If you fight me again, I will never let you." Still coming, Qin Yi was not worried about his ability at all. After the previous fight, he probably knew Huang Tianrong's strengths and weaknesses. Huang Tianrong's strength is not low, and Tianji's swordsmanship has reached the 3rd stage. Among the entire new generation of disciples of the famous sword sect, he should not be considered weak. But his agility is too poor. As long as Qin Yi uses flexible martial arts to fight him, his Tianji swordsmanship will be useless no matter how strong it is. What's more, Qin Yi's system gave him full-level understanding, full-level imitation ability, and full-level creativity. The Green Lotus Sword Song just now comes from the full level of creativity. But after his fight with Huang Tianrong, he had just triggered the full level of imitation power. The moves Huang Tianrong used before were completely mastered by him. Moreover, coupled with the talent of max-level comprehension, the moves he imitated from Huang Tianrong and the upgrade of comprehension made him better than his master at this time. Since you still want to humiliate yourself, I have no choice but to help you. Qin Yi pulled out the iron sword again. Huang Tianrong stared at him coldly and suddenly shouted, "The swordsmanship you used just now is not the swordsmanship of our famous sword sect. Are you worthy of being the senior brother of Quu Peak as a master of art? It is taboo in all sects to lead an art castling master. In Fengyan, Duanlang was the master of art training, Sishangba always hated him." Ji Yu Yi said for Qin Yi at this time, Qin Yi is not an art master. His Qinglian sword song was given by innate when he touched the enlightenment stone. Everyone present looked surprised when they heard this. Given by innate, doesn't that mean it's innate's technique? Like senior brother Hua Yunfang, he also possesses the innate kung fu. No wonder his swordsmanship is so weird that he defeated Huang Tianrong in one round. If Qin Yi said this himself, others would inevitably question it. But since these words came from Ji Yu Yi's mouth, no one had any reason to doubt them. Huang Tianrong's mouth twitched twice. The better Qin Yi was, the angrier he felt. Just when he was trying to find an excuse not to let Qin Yi use Qinglian sword song, Qin Yi took the initiative to speak. "Afraid of me?" Qinglian sword song just said, "Since you are afraid, I just don't need it." Huang Tianrong was overjoyed. Without the innate technique, I don't have to worry. But he still refused to admit defeat. "Afraid? Am I afraid of you? But your swordsmanship is not the swordsmanship of our famous sword sect after all. Even your innate skill should not be used on the martial arts stage. Come up and show off your power. Stop talking nonsense, don't use it if you don't need it." Qin Yi grabbed the iron sword, and his full level of comprehension allowed him to understand the essence and key points of Tianji's sword technique in 1 second. As soon as the iron sword in his hand was unsheathed, his true energy was injected into it, and soon the iron sword was surrounded by flames. Huang Tianrong was secretly happy a second ago. As long as Qin Yi doesn't use Qinglian sword song, what else can he use? The next second, when he saw the iron sword in Qin Yi's hand actually emitting flames, he was immediately dumbfounded. Tianji swordsmanship, the third stage of open flame state. You. What? This Tianji swordsmanship must be the swordsmanship of the famous sword sect, right? Are you afraid of it too? Qin Yi Xiao asked. Huang Tianrong gritted his teeth and couldn't believe it. Where did you learn it? You just started on the first day, and the master hasn't taught you yet. Where did you learn it? Qin Yi, why do you care so much? In short, if I use this sword technique, you should have nothing to say, right? Huang Tianrong angrily activated the flames, and the iron sword burned brightly. Tianji swordsmanship, in this field, he has never been afraid of anyone. Immediately, he jumped up, like a ferocious beast, lunged forward, slashed out with a sword, and 3 flames swept across the world. Tianji sword technique 3 stars by the moon. But Qin Yi has quick eyes and quick hands. When he sees what Huang Tianrong does, he will follow suit. Although the move comes later, it can arrive first. And with the full level of understanding, the same sword moves he performs are more stable and lethal than Huang Tianrong. When Huang Tianrong slashed out 3 flames, he also slashed out 3 flames at the same time. Tianji sword technique 3 stars by the moon. The same sword moves, the same offensive. Everyone looked at the martial arts arena with wide eyes. 6 flames collided with each other, and a violent shock wave spread out from the middle. At this time, Qin Yi realized that there should be variables in 3 stars Zuyu. So, he took action again, slashing forward with the iron sword, shooting out 6 flames. The 6 flames, like 6 huge flame pythons, were invincible and extended close to the ground. Huang Tianrong's reaction was a little slower, and he was hit by one of the flaming sword energy. His chest seemed to be scorched, and he was knocked off the martial arts stage again. This scene completely shocked everyone present. Even Ji Yuyi's face was full of shock. She opened her big watery eyes and looked at Qin Yi on the martial arts stage in disbelief. Qin Yi, how did you do 6 stars in the sky? 6 stars across the sky. Qin Yi didn't know what 6 stars Hengkong was, but his full level of understanding gave him the creativity to draw inferences from one example to other cases. After he used 3 stars chasing the moon, he soon felt that there were variables behind this move. 3 turned into 6, 6 turned into 9, and 9 became the ultimate. He originally wanted to display 9 at the back, but he didn't expect that after only displaying 6, Huang Tianrong would be knocked off the martial arts stage. This full-level understanding is really useful. Single quote. He was secretly happy. Huang Tianrong, who was shot down under the martial arts stage, felt that he had lost all face. He roared, losing his mind, and his eyes turned red. Just as he was getting up and about to jump onto the martial arts stage again, a figure came carrying the wind in the inner courtyard. In a flash, the figure arrived on the martial arts stage, with his hands behind his back, looking elegant. That's enough, I want you to cultivate Taoism, but it makes you so noisy and your mind is not calm. How can you cultivate your mind? Qin Yi found out that it was Ji Yuyi's father who was here, and immediately bowed respectfully and took a few steps back. The embarrassed Huang Tianrong under the stage was full of anger. In the middle of his attack, when he saw his master appearing, he could only grit his teeth and swallow his anger again. Tianrong, what are you doing? The middle-aged scribe asked calmly. Huang Tianrong immediately knelt down on one knee. Master, it's Qin Yi, he. Just when he was about to complain, he bit back, but the middle-aged scribe seemed to understand everything and just raised his hand slightly, interrupting him. As a senior brother, do you have the appearance of a senior brother? Qin Yi took the opportunity to say, Master, this brother Huang has decided to give up his position as senior brother to me. Huang Tianrong immediately defended, I didn't. Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted again by a middle-aged scribe. Disciples of the famous sword sect, you must do what you say. Tianrong, what do you think? Huang Tianrong was like a mute-eating cactus for a moment. The master had already spoken like this, how could he still say it? The middle-aged scribe looked at him expressionlessly. Go back and tidy up. Your clothes are disheveled and you are in a mess. How can you behave properly? Yes. Huang Tianrong gritted his teeth and could only retreat. Seeing Huang Tianrong like this, the other disciples were all silent and did whatever they needed to do at the moment. They sat down one by one and meditated. Then, the middle-aged scribe finally looked at Qin Yi. Qin Yi, where did you learn 3 stars chasing the moon and 6 stars crossing the sky just now? Ji Yuyi also looked at Qin Yi curiously, waiting for the answer. Qin Yi, to be honest, I learned it from Huang Tianrong by following the example of a gourd, and I also feel that there should be 9 variations of this sword technique. When Ji Yuyi heard this, she immediately frowned. She doesn't believe that Tianji's sword technique can be learned by just following the instructions of a gourd. If it could be learned so easily, Tianji's sword technique would not be considered one of the 5 sect-suppressing sword techniques of the famous sword sect. But the middle-aged scribe did not question it. Instead, he smiled and said, your understanding is really very high. From the first sight of you using 3 stars by the moon, my teacher already guessed that you were imitating it. Because your swordsmanship seems to be the same, but in fact it is somewhat different. This is an expert. An expert will know if there is one as soon as he takes action. Just like calligraphy, even if some people can imitate it perfectly, but for those who have not mastered the method of using the pen, even if the words are written the same, the strength of it will still look different. It may be difficult for ordinary people to see it, but as long as you are an expert, you can see the difference in minutes. Real martial arts skills, it has supporting mental formulas. Just like a computer graphics card, after you install the graphics card, you must install the graphics card driver. Only the matching graphics card driver can allow the graphics card to achieve 100% display effect. In the same way, the same is true for martial arts. Only the matching mental formulas can allow it to exert maximum power with minimum force. Although Qin Yi's imitated swordsmanship looks the same, in fact he needs to use several times his true energy to achieve normal power. If it's the variable of 9, can you use it? The middle-aged scribe asked him. No, although this disciple senses Yuzhou's variables, he hasn't figured it out yet. Qin Yi said against his will. With a full level of understanding, he has already thought through everything. 9's variables can be used if he wants to, but he has to hide his clumsiness a little in front of his father-in-law. Only when you hide your clumsiness can you give your father-in-law a chance to give advice. In this way, once you realize the variable of 9, it will become the credit of your father-in-law. At that time, my father-in-law was naturally happy. The middle-aged scribe nodded. You are very good. With such understanding, you are not inferior to Yuanfeng. Tomorrow, you come to the backyard, and your teacher will personally teach you the complete Tianji sword technique. Thank you, master. The middle-aged scribe seemed very happy to have such a disciple. Master, what about senior brother? Qin Yi saw that he was about to leave, so he hurriedly asked. This matter must be implemented as soon as possible. The middle-aged scribe waved his hand casually. Since you want to be a senior brother, then you will be a senior brother from now on. However, when you become a senior brother, you must behave like a senior brother. If you do not do well, you will have to bear the responsibility. Responsibility for poor performance. Qin Yi smiled. He had been waiting for this sentence. Now that he has master's golden words, his position as senior brother is firmly established. Thank you, master. After the middle-aged scribe left, Qin Yi smiled and said to Ji Yu Yi, Junior sister Yi, please call senior brother to come and listen. Ji Yu Yi made a face at him, stuck out her tongue and said, I don't want it if it's beautiful. I am now the senior brother appointed by master. I don't care, I won't scream anyway. The girl turned her head arrogantly, but Qin Yi could see her head, and his favorability suddenly increased by 10 points again. As a result of witnessing the excellence of the host, the favorability will be increased by 10 points again. At this time, her favorability towards Qin Yi has reached 80 points. A question suddenly arose in Qin Yi's heart. That's what the goodwill is for. He knows that goodwill can bring them closer, but what about other than that? The system's gentle Yu Jian suddenly came to explain in time. A woman's favorability score above 50 is a friend, 60 is a better friend, and 70 is a good friend. When it reaches 80, you will start to like it. If it reaches 90, it means that she likes her very much. If it reaches 100, it means that her body and her heart already belong to you. So that's it. Favorability below 50 belongs to passers-by. For example, a kind lady in the cafeteria brings you more food every time. This kind of favor can be ignored. Above 60, it means she starts to treat you as a friend. 80 is a stage of qualitative change, and she will start to like you from the bottom of her heart. Junior sister Yi's favorability towards me has reached 80, which means she already likes me in her heart. Single quote. No wonder she looks a little shy. After mastering this data and information, Qin Yi decided to strike while the iron was hot. He suddenly jumped off the martial arts stage, took Ji Yu Yi's hand in front of other brothers, and ran outside. Qin Yi, where are you taking me? The girl was passively pulled away from the martial arts arena by Qin Yi. When she reached the door, Qin Yi let go of her hand and bowed respectfully. I was my teacher's sister before and you are the swordsman. I wonder if I can ask my junior sister to teach you the swordsmanship as well. Teach me. Teach you. The girl pouted. She changed her skirt and came out to warn Qin Yi, not to teach him. Junior sister Yi can tell at a glance that he is an expert in swordsmanship, and his swordsmanship must be above that of Huang Tianrong. Master said that he will start teaching me Tianji swordsmanship tomorrow, so before that, I would like to ask junior sister to teach me the swordsmanship first, preview it a few times. This way, you can study in advance and avoid making mistakes and disappointing master tomorrow. The essence of flirting with a girl is that it doesn't matter what excuse or topic, what matters is that you are tired of being with her. The girl was very happy when he praised her. Most girls feel happy when they are praised. However, when you are praised, you have to differentiate between people. Different people will have different effects. If someone she hates praises her, it will definitely not be enough to make her happy. But Qin Yi was exactly the person. She already had 80 points of favorability in her heart, and she was naturally happy to be praised by Qin Yi. Humph, you have a good idea. She raised her head arrogantly. My swordsmanship was taught by my father personally, and my attainments must be higher than Huang Tianrong's, but Huang Tianrong's realm is just a little higher than mine. So, junior sister Yi, can you teach me Tianji's sword technique a few times? It's not impossible to teach you, but you have to remember that what happened on Aotu Mountain before is not allowed to be spoken out, and you are not allowed to think about it yourself. Definitely, I promise. Seeing Qin Yi's solemn promise, the girl finally agreed. Okay then, I will just be a good person for once and teach you. With that said, she took Qin Yi down the mountain. On a grassland at the foot of the mountain, one person picked up a wooden stick, and the girl taught him how to evolve it with each move. With Qin Yi's understanding, he can naturally understand it after reading it once. He also memorizes the mental formula read by the girl after listening to it once. However, in order to create the opportunity for the two of them to get along for a long time, of course he cannot act like he is just right. He tried to act as stupid as possible within the range that the girl could accept. The girl taught him the same trick several times, but he couldn't learn the essence. The girl's patience wasn't very good either. After 3 times, she stamped her feet angrily. You're so stupid. That's not the case. The essence of Tianji swordsmanship is to open and close the sword widely. To highlight a fierceness, horizontal and vertical cuts are the main ones. Why can't you learn the attack method? How about junior sister teach me step by step? Qin Yi suggested. Hand in hand. The girl was shy at first and wanted to refuse instinctively. She is a girl, how can she teach you step by step? But she suddenly thought that Qin Yi had taught her step by step before, so it would be considered a courtesy for her to reciprocate. Thinking again, Qin Yi learned swordsmanship from her in order to please her father tomorrow and not let her father down. After thinking about it, she also chose to agree based on her good impression of Qin Yi. Okay, but I'll teach you step by step once. If you don't know it again, I won't care about you. Okay, Qin Yi readily agreed. Then the girl came to him, put one arm around his waist from behind, and held his wrist with the other. Suddenly, the first 3 movements of Tianji's sword technique flowed smoothly, and the two people moved in unison and performed them smoothly. The hand-to-hand contact was also an intimate contact, so the girl also felt an unusual sense of pleasure in the process. After teaching the 3 moves, she smelled the man's scent close at hand, and her heart couldn't help but jump wildly, as if a deer was charging. It's strange. I usually hate this troublesome task of teaching others to practice martial arts. Why do I feel so happy today? She scratched her head and couldn't figure out the reason. Is it because of this guy? If you have different enjoyment and experience when doing the same thing with different people, it must be a human problem. The two of them were very close to each other at this time. After the girl fell into thinking, she was slightly dazed. Qin Yi suddenly looked at her moist lips and kissed her quickly. Although it was like a dragonfly touching water, the girl's heart was like a calm lake being pushed into a turbulent boulder at this moment. You, what are you doing? After the girl felt that she was being kissed, she quickly took 2 steps away shyly, and then covered her mouth. He looked at Qin Yi with resentful eyes, reproachful and a little nervous. At the same time, his heartbeat was a little faster. Junior sister Yi, you are so beautiful. Qin Yi looked at her straightly. If she was angry at this moment, he would apologize immediately. If you are not so angry, you can continue to tease her in a gentle place. If you do this again, I will ignore you. The nervous girl did not dare to look at him, so she quickly turned around and turned her back to him. After all, he has 80 points of favorability. In the girl's heart, she also likes Qin Yi. Under such a premise, Qin Yi's slightly bad and impulsive behavior can pluck the young girl's heartstrings even more. Okay, I won't do this anymore, junior sister Yi, let's continue. Qin Yi came to her side, his left hand naturally hugged her waist, and his right hand supported her wrist. It was obviously the girl who taught him how to practice swordsmanship, but with his current posture, he was clearly turning against the guest. But after the girl was kissed just now, her heart was in chaos at the moment. So, she fell into passivity, and her head suddenly felt like a ball of paste. He can only follow Qin Yi's rhythm and practice every move. Qin Yi deliberately slowed down the rhythm of his moves. They were obviously swordsmanship, but the two of them practiced it as if they were dancing. As for the girl, the more she practiced, the happier she became, and the pleasant feeling continued one after another. This also made her peek at the boy next to her from time to time. A momentary misunderstanding made her feel that the boy in front of her was really no worse than senior brother Hua Yunfeng. During this process, Qin Yi found that the girl's favorability score suddenly increased by 5 points. Because the host's close behavior has brought the ambiguous relationship closer and increased the favorability by 5 points. In this way, the favorability level has reached 85 points, which is very close to 90 points, like it very much. Immediately, he decided to strike while the iron was hot. After practicing the 3 moves, when he was about to withdraw, he lowered his head and kissed the tender red lips again while the girl was not paying attention. The girl's delicate body trembled, as if she was electrocuted, and she instinctively wanted to push him away, but suddenly her body went limp, as if all her strength had been lost. Putting his hands on Qin Yi's chest, he had no strength at all. But this time Qin Yi didn't give her a hint, but kissed her deeply. The girl resisted and accepted. After a few seconds, she also revealed her feminine characteristics, and couldn't help but gently closed her beautiful eyes. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.